Hi everyone, Brandon Jones here. A happy E3 to you. Whether it's E3 right now or not, whether you're watching our E3 2017 coverage live or you're checking this out on YouTube later, a happy E3 to you. This is part 3 of Judge Jones. So this is a series that I am doing because I am doing the foremost representation of Easy Allies as an E3 judge this year. But before I talk about the very last games that I got to check out a month ago, I will be checking out games also during E3, but these are games specifically that I got to check out a month ago during Judge's Week. So there's a lot of games where we're like, hey, you're going to check out games a month in advance? Let us get in there. Let us show you our stuff so that when you get to E3 and, you know, Pandora's box opens and all this crazy stuff happens, you'll remember our game, hopefully. So these are a lot of games that are definitely memorable. A lot of VR that I was very not expecting at Judge's Week. That was interesting because I get a little nervous about playing something in VR and getting all, you know, my head screwed up or my stomach screwed up, and then I'm screwed up for the rest of the day, and then that'll impact my judging. But before I get into these games, I just want to talk about what being a judge means. So this means that Easy Allies, so we're not even 2 years old. This is our second E3 officially in operation. We are now able to vote on what E3 considers to be the official games of their respective genres as far as quality is concerned. And lots of different people, a lot of outlets that you're familiar with from around the world get to vote on this. And it's very exciting, and it's an honor to be included in that. But what I think is so amazing is how quickly we were able to get that, you know, and I think one of the reasons why is because of the consistency of our growth. And that has to do with the wonderful people that are watching our videos on YouTube and the wonderful people that are, you know, subscribing to us, whether it is on Twitch or on YouTube, or our wonderful sponsors at patreon.com/easyallies. And so I really want to not only share this with you all, but of course share this with the other allies, because they're going to be going and they're judging games too, and they're you know, going online here live, like you're probably watching right now, and talking about all of the crazy things that they're seeing. And so keep in mind that any type of opinion, any type of coverage that you see come out of Easy Allies gains that stature of being a part of our official judging of the quality of all of the games that are there, and what that means. You know, not only just the games, you know, the quality games themselves, but what they did at E3, what they brought to E3, you know, what we knew about that game before E3 started, what we know now. And hopefully because of this 3-part series, you know a little bit more about some of the games that I checked out. Again, I'm trying to go through absolutely every single game that I saw, and so I apologize if these kind of get a little delirious and rambly. The first game I like to talk about is from a developer that's very near and dear to my heart, Harmonix, that does a lot of really fun things with music. And they're making a card game slash mobile game that also has a peripheral. There's a lot of things going on. So you need a tablet or a smartphone, and you need a particular device that they have constructed that you put cards on, and you obviously need the cards. And so there is, much like, you know, the best card games, there's a very simple version of the game that you could play where you just get a specific deck and then play with that. But obviously you can collect cards, you can build decks, and you can set up your own rules. So yeah, the game is called Dropmix. And it is a card game, which, to my knowledge, is one of the first times that Harmonix has done something like that. And I'll give you the really quick rundown of how to play it, because it's something you should really see, you know, some of the videos that they've done demonstration-wise. You really, like, see the game, you know, being played to understand it. But what you try to do is you have a card, and the card is a particular song. And so you'll see, like, you know, the album cover, and you'll see the artist and the song and the type of song that it is. And the song will have an intensity. So there's 3 bars. So it'll be like either a 1, 2, or 3. And the song will either have 1 color, 2 colors, or will be like a wild card, meaning it's every color. So like it is non-color specific. And you set up different modes, and you're either playing with teammates, or you're playing one-on-one, or you're all playing in a party. So you're all playing against each other. And the game will tell you to put cards down in a specific part, and one of the modes we played was 2v2, and so when our opponents would put a card down, we could put a card down of a stronger intensity. So if they put like a blue 1 down, we could put a blue 2 on top of that, and then thus knocking their card off, that's taking more of the board and gathering more points. And so there's lots of different modes you can play, but the thing that's so cool, and the reason why, even if I haven't played every single game that Harmonix has made over the years, I just love, you know, whatever type of gameplay that they set up, the fun things that you're able to do with music because of them. And basically what happens is when you put all these different cards on the this device that they've set up, it starts playing a song, and it might play the drum part from one song, or it'll take a guitar sound from another song, or maybe take vocals from another song. And so you kind of, the game itself kind of becomes a DJ. And I couldn't really tell, specifically didn't spend a lot of time with it to understand exactly all of the crazy things that were happening. It's like, are they really doing what I think they're doing, where this one song is like just pulling guitar from like another song? But there was a lot of experimentation there. Obviously, if it's the type of party game that sounds like something that you might enjoy or that your friends might enjoy, if you all get together and play, it's fun, obviously, to represent your favorite musical styles. My country deck would not be very extensive, is what I'm saying. I would probably get more towards classic rock or metal. But an interesting concept. Unfortunately, it was very cold at the event. It was at the top of a hotel. It was outside. And I'm like, ooh, it's kind of windy. I have a card game. I don't know if it's the best. You might blow off the... But it was an interesting game, Harmonix, and they're always trying such fascinating stuff. So, Dropmix. If you're curious to check that out, invite a couple friends over, get loaded, and play it. Went to a VR event from a company called Servos, and they had 2 games available, Raw Data and Sprint Vector. Sprint Vector was very interesting. It was definitely the most physical VR game that I played, and I love to get physical. And you had to like run, but you had to like hold down the trigger to basically simulate like I'm moving now. So it was like hold, release, and like that was you running. And you had to like if you would jump, you could like put both of your hands forward and kind of fly a little bit, and you would have to grab things and like throw yourself up, and there was another button you would press if you wanted to jump up. So it was like very physical, but very intuitive once you got the hang of it. And they were extremely competitive there, and so they had like divisions that they put us up in, and we were all competing against each other. It was fun. It was, I think I put a little more effort into it than I probably needed to. I think I made it, you know, maybe would have needed to get better at just the game itself and not actually like being super fast with my arms, because I was having a fun time doing that. But it was a very interesting feeling, and it was definitely a game that there's definitely a skill level at Sprint Vector. It's definitely a game that you can get better at, and for a lot of people that are looking for a different experience, or maybe you've tried other things that is from a first-person perspective and makes you try to move fast, kind of like an action, you know, sprinting game in VR, and weren't satisfied with the results, or maybe got a little bit nauseous, or just kind of like, you know, didn't like how they did it. Definitely the goal of the team, they were like definitely stressed, like we want to make it feel intuitive, make it feel comfortable, make people that are surprised with, you know, typically being ill with playing stuff like this, or just not jiving with it, that will make it work. And I dug it, and I think other people at the event dug it too. Raw Data, I think, was kind of like their flagship title. It seemed like something that they were a little more confident in. It was a pretty straightforward first-person shooter in VR. And we did kind of a survival mode, and I played with one of the developers. It was actually creepy because you could like teleport around, and I do prefer that. And from VR, that was definitely something that I really got the hang of it with the weapons and everything. And so if I knew where enemies were coming from, it was fun to just teleport to like the perfect vantage point and then just like get covered behind something and waste everybody. But it was really spooky because sometimes the developer was represented like as a person in VR. Obviously didn't look like them, but and so sometimes when we would finish missions and stuff like that, or waves, he would like teleport right in front of me and like do a little dance. And it was kind of terrifying to just have a human being like teleport in front of you really fast. You know, I like trailers. One thing that I will give Raw Data points for is they played a trailer at the end of the demo, and it was in VR. So like in the actual world that we were in, a big screen popped up and they played the trailer on it. So I was able to like shoot the screen and throw grenades at it and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, I've never blown up a trailer before. That was really fun. Played Archangel, which is from Skydance, which is a film production studio, which is getting into VR. And there was another PC game I'll talk about in just a second that they also had demoed. But Archangel was in VR, and they talked a lot about the writing. They definitely stressed that they were bringing in some pretty high-caliber writers to write the story of Archangel. But Archangel is basically you're walking around in a giant mech, and the world is destroyed, and there's terrorists that are in big... you know, space vehicles are cloaking and causing crazy weather things to happen, and you got to go mess them up. It's pretty straightforward as far as the demo that I got to play. And Skydance, I'm really excited that you're getting into games. And the other game that you showed off was interesting, but I was not overwhelmed by Archangel. Unfortunately, it felt very on rails, and that's not a bad thing for VR, but you know, I was introduced to a city, and it was kind of like overrun with sand. So the desert had kind of come in and claimed it, and so there were lots of skyscrapers that were just like, you know, being taken over by these big mountains of sand. So there's a lot of glass. And I was like, oh boy, I'm in VR. I can like mess up all the glass. And I shot across one of the skyscrapers and the glass didn't break. And I was like, okay, I don't know if that detail hasn't been added to the game, or I don't know if that's not going to be there. But it kind of had like a Time Crisis kind of a vibe. It just felt like, you know, it was very arcadey, just kind of sit back and mindlessly blow stuff up. We had there was lots of chatter going on between compatriots of mine that were also in mechs or in like little ships flying by, and they called out a lot of the enemies. And so when things showed up, it you know, it was very difficult. Kind of got crazy near the end when there were like more targets that I could handle, and I was bummed when it was over because we were just starting a very interesting part. We were going to enter into a new location and just kind of like head out into the big wide open space in the desert, and then we've got a big to be continued, and so I'm curious to see more of that game because it's interesting seeing a company like Skydance that is known for funding very interesting stories in the cinema that I've seen over the years get into VR and put such an emphasis on this sci-fi story. I'm kind of curious to get more into it, but the little slice that I played at Judges Week wasn't amazing. So there. They had another game, which seems a little try-hard, but hear me out, called Pwnd. Regular spelling, Pwnd. And this is a shooter. Kind of looks like Team Fortress a little bit, but one of the things that is very specific about Pwnd, and just kind of like wraps up the whole attitude about the game, is you don't get prize from killing people. It's kind of like kill confirmed. So if you take someone out, you need to walk over and you need to Pwnd them. So you need to embarrass them. You need to do a very specific character animation on their you know, lifeless body, and then if you Pwnd them for a specific amount of time, then you take them out. So obviously the pwning is silly, depending on who you talk to. This is not a game that takes itself seriously. But what was interesting from a tactical perspective was actually trying to pull that off. We were in kind of tight corridors. You know, it seemed very like Quake-esque. There was a second floor. You could jump up to that second floor from pretty much any place, and there were lots of fun little vantage points. And my character had a double jump, and so there was lots of verticality going on. But it was interesting to try to isolate somebody and think about that if I'm like running into a firefight and there's 4 people all shooting at each other, I'm going to wait till somebody gets taken out and then maybe defend one of my team, or I'm going to like maybe follow a straggler and then try to get them behind, you know, somewhere out of the way so I can like give them a little pwn, like if I actually take them out and then get a point. And there's lots of stuff you can do if you get taken out before the person, you know, comes on you and begins the pwning. You can like hop out of the way, and the animation of my character of just like slumping along the ground was really funny. And you can actually like pick up people, so if somebody on your team gets taken out, you can run over and like, if you can't revive them there, you can like throw them over your shoulder and run them to another part. And so it was interesting. You know, it was they got something going on there, and it's interesting to add these kind of potentially arbitrary rules to something like a very, you know, fast-paced Twitch competitive third or first-person shooter that just changed the pace up just enough that they add a little bit of a risk-reward system of like, how much are you willing to try to get points, knowing full well that you are exposing yourself at the same time. Also, a ton of attitude. Maybe a little bit too much attitude at points. That's Pwned. I played Sonic Forces. So you could go into like the customization screen, but I couldn't do anything. But I saw that there were filters, and I can't remember. I think it was like filter by like fire type or something with the weapon or with the character. And so I was like, okay, if they have that, then there must be a lot of different options. That if potentially you can have so many different types of variants of the items that you can have on these characters and the characters themselves, that they need to let you filter them to faster get to the specific types of characters or items that you're looking for. I was like, that list is probably big. I didn't get any official count of all of the different options you're going to be able to get, but I did get to play several missions, and including one as one of these custom built characters. the weapon that I would recommend from the playthrough was there was a flamethrower that you could do that would just destroy anything that was in front of you. Obviously, if there's a light, you can just have it blasting the whole time. But it was fun running through a Sonic level and really not worrying about, true, I'm not going very fast, but I'm also not worrying about any object that's in front of me because I'm just tearing through all that stuff. Then there was another item that would do kind of like a little spin attack or like a charge attack that if I was running and there were bad guys in front of me, I could like sneak past them or just like blast through them. Again, fits your play style, and those are definitely two different types of play styles that they had available, and I'm sure depending on all the different items that they have in the game. I talked in an earlier Judge Jones about not being a huge Sonic fan, and definitely enjoyed this. Again, I played it twice, and so it was more fun the second time to kind of finesse certain areas and try to see if I can get through it unscathed. Sonic is growing on me, and it seems like the Sonic games that we are getting this year are more based on, what makes Sonic great, and there wasn't like some weird gimmick that they had to explain to me, and there wasn't some part of the game where I died a lot, and it was difficult, and there were parts where I wasn't, was kind of confused on which way to go at first, but they were fun areas to explore, and definitely got my heart going at certain parts when Sonic got good and fast, and it was fun, and that's just great. I'm just like, I don't know where to be with Sonic because it's a franchise that I've just put so far away from me because I've just not been interested in stuff that they've been doing. And so I didn't like book an appointment to go check out Sonic. I, went to an event and was like, oh, I'm in a Sega event. So yeah, here we go. So it was cool to play two different Sonic games at at the same event and come away enjoying both of them. So these are good times. There are three VR games that I want to talk about to wrap everything up. And this was at a Oculus specific event. And I will talk to them in order from least interested to most interested. Least interested was Arctica 1. Arctica 1 or Arctica .1. There's a .1 in the title, but I don't know if you say the .1. Arctica 1. This game had a very long open. I was in a car up in, the Arctic, up in definitely some snow going on, and being briefed by a character. So it's kind of fun, like looking out of the car and like talking to this character. Proceeded to go through some training, learn how to do weapons. One thing that was tricky about the game was your weapons were behind you, and so I had to like move my gun back and hear it like click, like there would be like a little like hum just in that ear, and that would mean like, yeah, it's ready for you to let go. And I had could have like two different guns and lots of gun customization. They threw a lot of weapons at me, right from the get-go. And then kind of reminded me a little bit of Aliens vibe, a little bit of The Thing, just going through this snowy complex and solving puzzles and shooting rebels or insurgents or anti-whatever, team I was on. And one thing that I really dug, I'm not going to lie to you, it was pretty standard fare. And so that's why I'm not like freaking out about it, because I've played a lot of shooters in VR and they're all great. But this is not something that is doing things that I don't think a lot of other people aren't doing. But the one thing that I did think that was fascinating about Arctica was one gun that I picked had an infrared scope, and the infrared scope was on a pistol. And the infrared scope was infrared in the game. So I actually had to look at the scope. It wasn't like a first-person shooter where it's just kind of locked into like the bottom of the frame there. I actually had to look at the gun and aim with it when I was, going over environments, because if there was like steam or, people running really fast, it was easy to just kind of look in and be like, oh, there's the target, and then aim that way. And so it'd be interesting in the future to experiment with things like, shooting a bow and arrow and, like I've done that in VR, but just like actually experiencing like visually that perspective, looking down the, sniper rifle or like aiming a cannon. Fun to do with specific types of weapons in sci-fi. There's nothing that Arctica 1 is doing wrong. It's just, I have played other games like it. Games that I very much like and think they're doing things right. The first is Brass Tactics. Brass Tactics is a real-time strategy game that you play. It's kind of like a board game. Like you play in a big room, like you're in a castle, and you have this board in front of you, and it's great because kind of reminds me of Dino Frontier, but it's great because it's on a mass scale, and there might be a lot of people with you with VR systems who have played a lot of real-time strategy games, but it's fun to like move the table that you're on and zoom in and really get a sense like in person, just kind of looking at things. It's kind of exhausting actually, because I was like just constantly looking around at stuff, because I'm not that great at RTS games. I tend to like go tell people to do something and then completely forget, or like I'll tell a resource like, yeah, build stuff, and then I'll go over and just like forgot I told them to build it, and so those resources are all just like standing there waiting for a command. And so I love RTS games that will like yell at you and they're like, hey, you have people that aren't doing anything, because I need that. Brass Tactics was fascinating because it was the only VR game at Judges Week that made me sick. And it only made me sick, it was my fault, because there was one button that you use to select troops and another button that you use that puts a little like metal prod into the table, and you can see like, I'm gonna move the table. And I thought I was about to move the table and I didn't. And so I made a motion with my hand and my brain thought that the table was gonna slide this way, my perspective was gonna go that way, and when it didn't happen, my stomach didn't like that. But Brass Tactics is great. It's got a great attitude. It's got a fun aesthetic. It's kind of like amped up Warhammer Worldcraft, like World of Warcraft, you know, like big, you know, like shoulders with, you know, spikes on them, and you know, lots of like armor, you know, rangers with tons of armor on, and a little bit of a steampunk vibe there too. And it's fun when you go through the menus, because there's a lot of physical stuff. So there's a lot of like picking up this object and putting it there and seeing it lock into place and upgrading units that way. And I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Only outbeat by the last game that was at this Oculus event. That is from Ready at Dawn. It's from the people who did the Order 1886. And the game is called Lone Echo, but we played a mode called Echo Arena. I don't know if I'll spend a lot of time with this game, but this was a very trippy experience for me in VR, because I don't know if you've read Ender's Game. I'm a big fan of Ender's Game. It's one of my favorite books. And they made a movie recently. Go see it if you don't want to read the book, I guess. Like, it's a faithful adaptation on paper. This was Ender's Game. I basically played Ender's Game. And so it was fascinating to get to that point where it's like, here we are, and we can make a game like this, and I can totally understand what's going on and enjoy it in a way, reading Ender's Game, that I wasn't sure how old I would be when I finally got to do that. The mode that we played was very simple. It was a 3D arena, and there was a goal on one side, goal on the other, and you had a frisbee, and if you threw it, it would have, if you did a bad toss, it would wobble sometimes, and we were all in 0G, and so you could fly around and grab the frisbee and throw it to teammates and just try to get it in the goal at the end. What was crazy was just physically how the game worked. So if I pressed a button on one hand, then if you press a button on one hand, then you would move in that direction. You could also grab people and push away from them, and you could also grab the wall and push away from the wall, which I would only do in very specific circumstances. Most of the time, how I got around is if you would press a button on one controller on the Oculus, and you held your arm out, you would move in that direction. If you press down both buttons, you move faster. It was kind of fun to steer this way, because if you press one down and then I do this, then I would start to like move this way. And so it was kind of fun finessing that and getting used to, the minute controls of like exactly where I wanted my body to go. In Echo Arena, you have legs, which doesn't happen all the time. That was one of the things that disappointed me about Archangel, is you're in a mech and I didn't have legs. I was in the cockpit, and the cockpit looked cool, but I looked down, I'm like, oh, can I see my feet? Nope. And Archangel, you have legs, but you're in 0G, and so your legs are just kind of like drifting around you. And the reason why you have legs is because another thing you can do in Echo Arena is you can grab people. It's the same button that you use to grab the disc if you want to throw it. And you can grab people, and you can also charge up a shot. And so you can punch people. So if I have the frisbee and you punch me, or you punch my arm, I'll drop the frisbee. And so the game can get pretty creepy and physical. And the most amazing thing, I think Greg Miller did it, I can't remember. The most amazing thing that I saw was one person was flying through the air with the frisbee, and Greg grabbed their foot and then and then climbed up their body, and the person had no idea, because you can't, feel what's happening in the game. So they had no idea that that person was behind him, and they're just like, yay, Superman, I'm flying towards the goal, I'm going to score the goal. And this person just like climbed up the back, charged up a punch, smacked him on the back of the head, and the frisbee goes flying up and grabbed it, and I don't know if they got a score out of that, but it was crazy playing a game like that in that environment, and, not getting a sense for like, I really believe I was in the environment. I knew I was in VR the whole time, but I saw people playing it, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'll adapt to that environment. I don't know if I'm going to understand what's going on. I don't know if it'll just feel well, like the physicality of actually like holding that object and like trying to aim with it and like throw it to teammates, and like whether I'm going to even identify who's on what team, or like know where my team is, or like, all it's going to take is one like 360-degree rotation. I'm going to totally forget like what side the goals are. Nope, it was great. Like, was totally in control the whole time. Was totally on top of like where my teammates were, where the Frisbee was. We lost, and like right before I could tell that we were going to lose, I saw it coming a mile away because I just knew like the person flew past me, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to catch up to them. So it was interesting. I didn't get to play Lone Echo, really. I got to play a mode in Lone Echo called Echo Arena. So I have no idea what Lone Echo is going to be about, if this is going to be the way the game is played, or if this is like a Conker's Bad Fur Day situation where there's crazy mini games that are like very different than what you actually do in the main game. But that was fascinating. It was one of the most interesting things I've ever done in VR, because I was extremely skeptical going in that it would control as well as it did. And it did. And so control well. And it was specifically on Oculus. I believe it will be exclusive to Oculus for however long that lasts. So if you get to E3 and you want to check out Lone Echo, go do it at the Oculus booth. And hopefully you'll want to check out maybe some of the other games if you happen to check this out. If it's after E3 and you didn't get a chance to check out these games, they will all be coming out soon. Hit me up at Brandon@EasyAllies.com or at Twitter at Trailer Jones if you want more clarification on any of these titles. And again, apologies if I'm a bit rambly. It's the first time being a judge here at Easy Allies, and it's interesting to try to figure out what being a judge means for the group. What is the best way to cover things? Because I look at YouTube.com/EasyAllies, and it's very different from our YouTube channel and the way we used to do things back at Game Trailers. Really focusing on games separately, and so I think it was important for me to try to also communicate not only the games that I saw during Judges Week, but what Judges Week is, and how some of these events work, and the bonus that we get as a brand, and the bonus that we get as an outlet like us to get to go to these events and not only play these games, but play these games with a lot of the fun people that are colleagues, the people that we work with in this industry. So again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to go to Judges Week, to continue to be a judge. Again, I'm recording this on the first day of E3, so I have a lot of really fun, exciting appointments for all of the exciting things that I saw. I even have more exciting things to do, and more fun people to see that I haven't seen in a really long time, and talk to them and be like, hey, what did you see? And they're like, I saw this cool, VR game called like Lone Echo. I was like, oh my God, I saw that too. And then we can talk about it. And then if I'm on Frame Trap later, when we talk about games specifically, I'll be like, not only did I play that game, but I talked to other people and got their impressions on the game, because there's no right answers here. If I talked about a game this week that pissed you off, if I talked about something that you're like, oh, come on, Jones, I'm a huge Total War fan, I love Warhammer, and you couldn't do like a little more research, you couldn't like talk about that game like in a little bit more detail, I will take that note, and if I am fortunate enough to go back to Judges Week, I will do our coverage of Judges Week differently. But considering that I was not going to be around a lot during our live coverage, I wanted to produce these videos to have a presence here in our live coverage, and to maybe add a perspective and some games that might not be a part of the conversation, depending on what the heck happens in these 3 days of press conferences leading up to E3 2017. So again, if it is far in the future, hello, future person. I hope E3 was great. I hope the planet's still around. But if it is E3 and you are watching us live, or you're watching this during E3, I hope you have a wonderful time. If you're there, be safe. If you're not, thanks for watching. And I will see you soon.